You love the shoes! Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I wore these for Kevin. And then we have a new hair product. Have you seen it? Earlier today, I don't know if you can see my face, but I shaved and I rubbed the hair product on my face and I grew a beard. It's unbelievable. It's fantastic. I figure if Tony Carlino can try to grow hair on his head, I can put some on my face. So I know what's happening in the back while you're sleeping. Have you inhaled on Hollywood Boulevard yet? Not too much, man. Not too much. Wow. Calvin said he takes his kids to Hollywood Boulevard. I don't know if I'm going to take my kids here yet. 3 and 5, it's not safe to get high yet, right? Okay. Anyway, so is anybody excited about being here? Say me. Awesome. Who here is here for your very first Jeunesse conference? Raise your hands. Okay, I want everybody. All right, 6 people. Very good. Everybody, give them a big hand. Now, you clapped. Everybody, give them a big hand. Very good. First step in becoming a leader is to listen. It's very hard to listen when you're talking. It's very hard to learn when you're talking. So my first lesson for you today. I've been in this business for 27 and a half years. I know I don't look that old. I looked about 72 years old when I got involved in Jeunesse. I don't know if you've heard about this miracle skincare stuff. And I look a lot younger now, but literally 27 years ago, I got the phone call. The phone call. How many of you have gotten the phone call? Right? Somebody got the phone call. Somebody called you. And this guy called me, and it was absolutely hysterical because he was my basketball coach, and he was trying to teach me how to become a college basketball player. How many of you have heard of Shaquille O'Neal? Shaq? So Shaq was a sophomore. I was a freshman in college. I was trying to walk on the same basketball team that Shaquille O'Neal was on. Now, I didn't have any business being on that team, but I was trying. I had a big dream. I had a big goal. I was going to play in the NBA one day. I said, Dad, I'm going to be in the NBA. He said, son, there's only 2 things going to keep you out. Talent and ability. So thank God that this worked out. But my basketball coach, who's helping me try to make the team, Sunday morning I have a workout. He's excited about me making this team. And Sunday afternoon I get a phone call. And he said, Jason, this is Mark Dean. Which was very weird. I'd known him all my life, and he just told me his last name. I said, hi, Mark Dean. He said, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I just got involved in a business. I said, Mark, I saw you this morning. He said, will you just please listen for a minute? I said, sure. He said, we're expanding all over the Gulf South, primarily focusing in on Baton Rouge and New Orleans, and we're looking for a few key people to work with. I said, okay. He said, Jason, let's take a look at your financial situation. Now, keep in mind, I was an 18-year-old kid. He said, how are you doing financially? I said, I don't even have a checkbook. I don't have a bank account. I have no money. He said, where were you 5 years ago financially? I said, dude, I was 12. He said, where are you going to be in 5 years if you keep doing what you're doing right now? I said, probably still a freshman in college. That was my phone call. Then he said, would you be open to looking at a way to increase your income that wouldn't interfere with what you're currently doing? I said, well, number 1, I don't have an income. Number 2, I'm not doing anything. So yes, I'm open. He said, great. That was my inception into network marketing. How do you sponsor a diamond? I have no idea. Read a script, call somebody on the phone, meet somebody on Hollywood Boulevard. Here's the key. You ask. You pick up the phone and you ask. You meet somebody in a coffee shop and you ask. It's the power of the ask. You have not in this life because you what? Because you ask not. And he asked. And I said, yeah, I'm open. And he said, great. He said, we're going to come over to your house and we're going to show you a business. I said, do you know where I live? He said, no, where do you live? I said, I don't live in a house, I live in a room. Now, in New York, maybe here in LA, a studio is kind of cool. Well, in South Louisiana, it's not cool. It's a room. It's small. I shared it with 2 other dudes. Okay? And literally, you could sit on the toilet and you could answer the door and you could cook dinner all at the same time. It was very small. It was a room. I said, Mark, I live in a room. He said, where's your room? I told him. He said, we'll be there at 6 o'clock. I had 2 roommates. I said, look, I got Mark Dean coming over. We're going to get rich. We got a business. And one of them left. I have yet 27 years. I have never seen him since he's gone. One of them stayed. His name was Brad. Brad said, I'm in with you, buddy. Whatever Mark Dean and you were doing, I'm in. Man, we're going to do this thing. We didn't know what it was. And at 6 o'clock that night, we looked out at our little Venetian blinds. Remember those? Some of you still have them. And this black Cadillac that was as long as the room showed up in front of our apartment. And out of this black Cadillac got out my basketball coach, black suit, white shirt, red tie, slick back, I'd only seen him in shorts, slick back black hair, and he had this gel from this company, this hair product from this company. And he had these lines in his hair. And I used to joke with him. I said, maybe you ought to take business cards and put them in the lines and say, hi, my name's Martine, take a card. And there he was, black shirt, black suit, white shirt, red tie. And 5 guys that looked just like him got out of the Cadillac. And I looked at my roommate and I said, the mafia is on our house. Now, you never know where you are, but if you're part of that group, that is a fine team, fine organization. My wife says, you're going to get killed. They'll kill you. You're going to end up with a horse's head in your bed and just, some of you get that on the way home. For those of you who have the translating headphones, you're going to get some of this on the way home. I'll talk really fast. I apologize. They ain't heard it yet. It's all good. So, Kevin, you awake? All right, good. What was my topic again? Anyway. So this little dude gets up, he draws a bunch of blue circles on a whiteboard, and he tells me that I can get rich if I go put my friends in the circles. How many of you seen the circles? How many of you, after you saw the circles, you went to sleep that night and you still saw circles? How many of you, when you walk outside, and it's not because of what's going on Hollywood Boulevard, you look in the sky and you still see circles? For 27 years, every day of my life, I close my eyes and I have seen circles. Why? I have no idea. I have no idea. My roommate, I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. This is great, we're gonna be rich. It's fantastic. My roommate, Brad, thought it was the dumbest thing he'd ever seen in his life. What was the difference in the presentation that I saw and that Brad saw? Nothing. Why did I see it and he didn't? I have no idea. And it's not your job to figure out who's going to see this. It's not your job to figure out who's going to become a leader in your business. It's not your job to figure out who's going to do your business, who's not going to do your business. It's your job to ask. It's your job to get people in front of it and ask them questions. Brad was out. He didn't do it. I did it. I went home to my parents. There's a guy named Dexter Yeager. Anybody ever heard of him? He died 3 years ago. 3 days ago. God rest his soul. Grandfather of our industry. Dexter Yeager was the guru. He was the godfather. He was the one on the top of the pyramid. Pyramid's always been a great word for me. You realize how many times in 27 years I've heard the word pyramid? It's a great word. Why? It represents marketing power. It's every company in America. It's every company in the world. It just made sense to me because I didn't know any better. I didn't listen to my friends. I didn't have, all my friends were broke, but they were just kids. So what did they know? They knew nothing. But I got to go meet that guy, Dexter. But before I did, I went home to my parents. And I said, Mom and Dad, I'm going to be rich. They said, son, I thought you were going to be a doctor or a lawyer. I said, well, I don't think that's ever going to work. I couldn't stand the sight of blood, so I could never be a lawyer. And I couldn't stand the sight of lawyers, so I could never be a doctor. So, how to offend everyone in the room? That's okay. Look, Doc meets fine. It's all good. Mafia fine team. Okay? I said, Mom and Dad, I'm going to be rich. What are you going to do? I said, I just saw this business. This guy named Dexter Yeager. He makes $1 million a minute. They said, what's it called? I said, it's called Amway. My grandmother's here. Perfect. And my dad gets this white, pale, I'm about to throw up look on his face. And he says, Amway? Amway? Your Aunt Matilda used to do Amway in Thibodaux, Louisiana, which is where we were from. Not the end of the world, but you can see it from there. She went door to door with dogs biting on her legs, a little red wagon, knocking on doors, ding dong, trying to sell soda. He says, no son of mine is going to embarrass our family doing Amway. And I'm like, yeah, it's a little different than the meeting. You know, everybody was excited, and these 5 guys, and then, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, wait a minute. if I listen to you, I'm going to end up like you. Now, I love my dad. He's my hero, but I never saw him my whole childhood. He was gone at 5 in the morning. He was the CEO of a company, and he came home at night sometimes when we were already asleep. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then my mom butts in, and she's like, take it easy on him. He's excited about something positive for the first time in his life, and it's not marijuana, and it's not drinking beer out of a cowboy boot. Let's get excited for him. And then my dad very sarcastically says, praise God, honey, our kid's in Amway. It's always been our dream, son, for you to be in Amway. In fact, we've been praying for this for weeks. Our kid is in Amway. And then I'm just pissed, right? Can you say that? Was there a baby in here? You brought a baby to a bar? I'm just kidding. Some of you will get that on me. Anyway, so I get mad. And I'm like, you know what? For no other reason, I'm just going to go prove to them that they're wrong. That's not what this is. Not Amway. And so I went out and I sat down with the guy that sponsored me, Mark Dean, my basketball coach, and I said, Mark, what do I need to do? And this is where the lesson starts on leadership. He said, you need to call every living, breathing human being that you know, and every living, breathing human being that they know that has a pulse in the next 90 days. Ready? You want me to repeat that? Okay? Are you writing this down? Call every living, breathing human being that you know that has a pulse. How do you know if they have a pulse? If you put a mirror in front of their face, it fogs up. And you call them and you read this script. Would you be open to looking at a way to increase your income that not interfere with what you're currently doing? Would you be open to looking at a way to increase your income that not interfere with what you're currently doing? Are you totally locked into what you're doing, or are you keeping your options open? Would you be open to looking at a way to increase your income that not interfere with what you're doing? If I could show you something that could radically change your life, would you trust me enough to believe me? Would you trust me enough to look at it? So whatever it is, say something. Dial the number and start talking. You see, people don't start because they think they have to be good to start. But the key is to start. And as Tom said, Tom, right? As Tom said, okay, he's worth $500 million. You might want to listen to him. Embrace the suck. Nobody starts good. You're going to suck. You're going to not be good. You're going to say the wrong things to the right people. You're going to say some of the right things to the wrong people. But the key is to pick up the phone and call every living, breathing human being that you know. Do not prejudge them, because the person that you think will not do this will be the biggest thing in your business. And if you don't call them, they'll be the biggest thing in somebody else's business. Because the very person you think won't do this, because they're already successful, because they're already influential, because they don't need the money, they're the ones that will. The person that you're most afraid to call is the one that will not say, what's this, a Amway? What's this, a pyramid? No, because they have a brain. People with a brain don't say that. You see, you're looking for the ones with a brain that can think outside of their little box that they grew up in, and you call them. And so here's what I did. I got on the phone and I took my graduating class phone book, and I called. There was 123 people. I called every single one of them. I took the class above them. I called every single one of them. I took the class above them. I called every single one of them. And 95% of them said no, didn't want to talk to me, thought I was crazy. It's a pyramid, it's soap, it's where you get your friends in, you use them, you lose them, it's a cult, you're going to lose your friends, you're going to go into hell. All these things. Oh yeah, hell, it's real, yeah, oh God, so, not the Catholics. The Catholics were cool. Like, you're from South Louisiana, you gotta be Catholic at least once. I mean, Catholic. So the Baptists? No. Any Baptists in the room? You know why Baptists can't make love standing up? Because they be dancing. Anyway, so Randy, Wendy, Scott are coming more. It's all good, right? Lucy West is turning purple. It's okay. Martine's hair is turning a deeper shade of red. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Anyway, so where were we? So out of all these people I called, 400 people that I called in 90 days, this is what happened. Now, was I good? No, it was terrible. Right? But I just kept calling. But you know what? As you start doing, have you ever noticed that as you start doing, you get a little bit better? And then you get a little bit better, and you get a little bit better, and you get a little bit better, and you get a little bit better. And I got a little bit better, and I got a little bit better. My results were a little bit better after the 192nd person that I called. And 50 of these people, okay? 50 of these people that I called out of the 400 ended up coming to a meeting and signing up. 50 out of 400. It was $100. Okay, don't clap yet. 40 quit before the ink dried on the application. Why? We used to serve Jack Daniels at our meetings. You hold the pen, I'll move the application, we will put you in tonight. Problem was, they quit because they forgot what they were in the next day. 6 of them stuck and became customers. 4 of them led to people who led to people who led to people who led to thousands of people all over the world, 13 countries in the next 4 years. Had zero to do with me, but had everything to do with the fact that I took action, I wasn't good at it, but I kept doing it. How do you create leaders in your business and not followers? You got to become the leader that you want to attract. Albert Schweitzer said that leadership is all about example. It's not the main thing, it's the only thing. People watch you. Who has children in here? They don't do what you say, they do what you do. And so this is not about telling somebody what to do, it's about showing them what to do, and it's about working on you and making you a better you. Kathy talked about it. Tom talked about it. It's about changing you. And when you start to change you and you start to change the way that you think, you start to change the world around you. When you change the way you see you, you change the way that you see other people. And other people start to change. It is amazing how they change when you change you first. But everybody else is trying to change everybody else. Everybody's trying to go find that person to help them build their business. How about changing you first? Everybody's looking for the next best deal. Everybody's chasing the deal, and they want this deal, and they want this deal, and they want this, and they're chasing this deal, and they're still broke after 5 years. How to go broke in 5 years? Follow just about every network marketer on Facebook and Instagram. Instead of reaching down deep inside of them and chasing this, changing the way that they think, which is the only thing that's going to change the money and the financial situation in their life. Kathy talked about it. You change your input, you change your output. You change what you read, what you speak, what comes out of your mouth, which is based on what goes into your brain, and your life will change. You will start to attract to you not what you want, but what you are. And if you don't like where you are, you got to change who you are. That's number one. Now, I have a 5-year-old little boy. I'll never forget a friend of mine years and years ago had a 5-year-old little boy. And I didn't understand this story until I had a 5-year-old little boy. His 5-year-old little boy walked up to him and said, "Dad, I want to play." There was a New Orleans Saints game on television. Now, the New Orleans Saints are in the playoffs. They will go to the Super Bowl this year in Atlanta. Who dat? And he was watching the Saints, and his little boy wanted to play. Well, it was a big game. And so he kind of just pushed the little boy away, said, go play with your toys. And the little boy kept coming back. They're the greatest salespeople in the world. They will not take no for an answer. And he kept coming back, and he said, "Dad, I want to play." He said, "Son, just go." And then finally, he got frustrated, and there was a little magazine rack next to the lazy boy chair, and he pulled out this magazine, and there was this big picture of the world that opened up in this magazine. And he took the picture of the world, and he started ripping it up. And he ripped it up into 1,000 little pieces, and he put it back in the box. He said, "Son, go put that picture of the world together, come back to me, and I'll play with you." 5 minutes later, the kid comes back, and it is taped up perfectly. And his mind is blown. He said, "Did your mom help you with that?" He goes, "No, Dad." "How did you do that, son?" He said, "Dad, it was easy." He said, "You see on the back of the picture of the world was a picture of a man. And I put the man together, and the whole world fell into place." You see, if you get you right, your life gets right. Then you start to attract to you what you are. How do you find leaders? You pick up the phone and you call them. You become what you want to attract, and you believe in people. You actually give a rip about people. You care about people. You realize that this business is not about you. This business is about adding value to other people's lives. You add value to yourself first by what you read, by who you hang around, what Kathy talked about so eloquently, and then you take that value. Have you ever heard "my cup runneth over"? You take that value and you give that to other people. Everyone has what I call a value tank. What makes them feel special, what makes them feel important, and you should look at people as a red flashing sign, like the massage place right down the street, but not like that. But they have a red flashing sign on their head, and it says, "Make me feel important, make me feel special, make me feel like I matter." Do that to people and watch what happens to your business. Add value to their lives. Fill their value tank. For some people it's money. For some people it's significance. For some people it's love. For some people it's bringing God into their lives and giving them a dream and a vision. Figure that out. Add value to people's lives and you will find leaders and you will build leaders. And the last and final thing is you got to stay hungry. You've got to stay hungry for what you want. Keep it in front of you. Put it on the refrigerator. And they asked Dexter Yeager one time, they said, "Dexter, how did you do it? How did you build the biggest organization in the history of network marketing?" Let me tell you something about Dexter Yeager. More people have gone through his downline, Lance and Tracy, Steve and Gina, and a lot of other people in this room, me included, than any other network marketing company, and all of them put together since Jesus Christ sponsored 12. Even one of his quit. I mean, even God could not get Judas back to the meeting. So don't you try. They asked Dexter, "How did you do it?" You know what he said? He said, "I thought about it all the time." He said, "You will become what you think about most." How do you change your thoughts? You change what goes in. You start to think differently. You start to think about it all the time. And you start to become hungry for the life that you dreamed of. And you show up. You show up. I was reading a story the other day. I'm a huge basketball fanatic. And there's a guy named George. And George is a limo driver at one time. In 1984, George showed up to Chicago O'Hare Airport. And the ride that was supposed to come out of the terminal to pay George to take them to a hotel did not show up. So George had a choice. George could leave and go home, or George could hang around and hustle and try to go pick up a ride so he could make money that day for his family. And as he sat there for 3 hours trying to hustle a ride, all of a sudden this 6'6" guy walks out of the terminal building at baggage claim, and it's a guy named Mike Jordan. Mike Jordan had just been drafted number 3 overall by the Chicago Bulls. And he walks out, and it just so happens that Jerry Reinsdorf and the crew over there in Chicago, they got their wires crossed, and they didn't send the limo to pick up their first-round draft pick. And Michael walks out, there's nobody to pick him up. And there's George. And George recognizes him. George's parents were from Wilmington, North Carolina, just like Michael Jordan. And he walks up to him, he says, "Mike," he says, "would you like me to give you a ride?" He says, "Yeah, my ride didn't show up." And so he ends up showing him all of Chicago that day. And he gives him his card. He says, "If you need anything, man," he said, it's on me. Good luck. I'm a huge Bulls fan. My family's from North Carolina. You give me a call. About a month and a half passes. George gets a phone call. He says, "George, this is Mike." "Mike who?" Mike Jordan. "Oh, hey, Michael Jordan. Hey, how you doing, man?" He said, "Listen, my parents are coming in from Wilmington. They're moving to Chicago. You think you could pick them up?" And George went and picked him up. And they went back to Michael's house, and George never left Michael's house. George is Michael Jordan's best friend in the world today. He owns 7 businesses with Michael Jordan. He's a multi-millionaire today because George decided to show up. And he decided not to go home. He decided when it wasn't convenient to stay and to work. You see, success is based on inconvenience, not on convenience. It's based on working when no one else is working. It's based on doing what others aren't willing to do so that you can live like others won't live. James Harden is a pretty good basketball player. He plays for the Houston Rockets. There was a game last week where they played the Golden State Warriors and they beat him in overtime, and he hit a last-second shot that was absolutely unbelievable. They interviewed him after the game. They said, "James, how did you make a shot like that?" He says, "Every time you ask me that, it goes back to one thing. It goes back to the work. Every single day. I've shot that shot 10,000 times in practice, so I knew that shot was going in. And so what you do is you start to think about this all the time. You start to change you. Then you start to change who you attract to your life. You stay hungry for what you want, and that hunger will attract to you the type of people that you want. You pray like it all depends on God. You work like it all depends on you. And you will be amazed at the people that show up in your life. You will be amazed that if you keep planting the seeds that eventually will come up in your life. If you persist, and if you keep going, and if you don't stop, and if you keep going, and you don't stop. I will close with this. I had the opportunity to see, I was hungry as a kid. I knew that the key to this business was knowledge. I knew that the more I learned, the more that I would earn of the right knowledge, Paul and Kathy. I would learn, I would earn, and the more I learned, the more I would earn, and so I became a sponge and I showed up. I went to meetings that were not even in my company because I wanted to learn and get better and change me. And there was a guy named Art Williams that showed up in New Orleans one day, and he had built a little company called A.L. Williams, and he was a little high school coach from a little town in Georgia, like Mel back there, and Art Williams became a billionaire when he sold this company, but he was still a little high school football coach, and I got to sit at his feet one night, and a little girl was sitting next to me, and it was literally 2 a.m, and she goes like, are you in the deal? I said, yeah, I'm in the deal. I wasn't in the deal. Are you? Yeah. Whose group? I think I'm in your group. You know what? Let's sit and watch. Let's listen to Art. And this little girl asked Art a question, and she said, Mr. Art, can you guarantee my success in this business? And he said, no. He said, but I will guarantee you this. And he asked her, he said, is there an airport here in New Orleans? He said, that's big. Because I flew into a private airport. He said, she said, yeah, there's an airport. Do planes fly in there all night? She said, yeah, we actually live right by the airport. He said, well, if planes fly in there all night, here's what I'm going to promise you. That if you get out on that runway, you think you can get out on that runway? She said, oh, I've been out on that runway. This was before, TSA and all that stuff. And she said, I've been out on that runway. If you go out on that runway and you start walking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and even when you get tired, you walk back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Even if you get hungry, you walk back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Even if you got baby mama drama at home, you walk back and forth and back and forth and back. Even if your upline quits, you walk back and forth and back and forth. If your upline gets sued, you walk back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Even if things all go to pot, you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If you go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and if you keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, eventually, you gonna get hit by an airplane. You see, Teresa Gregory is an airplane. Steve and Gina Merritt are airplanes. Tony and Xan are airplanes. All the diamonds you're gonna see on this stage, they are airplanes. But they are the result of people working on themselves, of people believing in other people, and of people outworking everyone around them, going back and forth and 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 not looking up until they get hit by that airplane. God bless you guys. Good night.